All right, and we are live. Thanks everyone for joining in. This is the Inclusivity Working Group for April 7th of 2016. First, we'll go around and we'll do introductions. My name is Brian Hughes. I work for Microsoft doing some Node.js things. And on GitHub, my ID or my name is Nebrius. Julie, next.
Hi, I'm Julie Pagano. I'm a front-end web dev. I'm currently in between jobs. I'll be starting at New Relic on Monday. That's it.
Jonah?
I'm Jonah, and my GitHub is, I believe, 59. I changed it today.
Okay. Okay, real quick on that, if you change it, can you make a PR to the inclusivity repo? We've got your old name listed in a few places.
Yeah, I was planning to do that actually. I just haven't come around to it yet.
Right,
I need to do it for the Node.js org as well. So.
All right, great, thanks. Rich?
Rich Trott. I will be taking notes today, so probably not participating too much.
All right, and Scott.
Scott Gonzalez. I am Scott Gonzalez on GitHub. Very confusing. And yeah, that's it.
All right, so this is, I think, going to be a pretty short part of the meeting. So first, looking at the working group operations, one issue we have open, which I think we can actually resolve now, is use the Foundation's YouTube channel. The reason we want to make the switch is before, whenever we had these meetings, it would be just whoever set up the meeting, you know, myself, Ashley, and some others, we would do it on our personal YouTube accounts, which didn't make these meetings very discoverable. But I worked with Michael. I was able to get added to the Node.js org YouTube account. So now this meeting is our first one on the Node.js channel. And so I need to drop in to confirm. But yeah, so I believe that issue is actually now done because here we are. Any other just quick thoughts, comments on that before we move to the next issue? Great. So the next one is create a history document. So this one is mostly done. We actually have this history document in place, but there were a few nits and kind of questions around that surfaced at the end. So that issue we've left open for now. One of this has to do with phrasing that we use. So we have two lists of members of sorts. On the README page, we have the list of current members, which is just a flat list. Then in the history page, we list when anyone was added. Right now, I believe those two lists are completely in sync, but they may not necessarily be in the future. And so there's some questions over what we call them. In the history document, that section here, I'm looking this up real quick, is called members. And in the README, it is also called initial membership. I believe the phrase initial membership came from the template for the charter, but I could be wrong on that. But there's some questions over that because kind of the wording didn't really match what Ida was doing. So that's something we'll need to get ironed out. So William Kapke came in and made some suggestions. He suggested to use previous members in history, and members are current members in the README. I don't have any particularly strong opinions on this, but I'd like to kind of hear what everyone else thinks.
I would put current members in the README for the title. And for the history document, we could either just list all members in one list, right? Like current and previous, or we could have two lists for who are the current members and who are the previous members. I think it might make sense to just do the one list because we already have a list of active members in the README.
I think that's the simplest thing to start, especially since there's not a lot of old, not current members right now. Maybe if the list becomes arduous, we want to split it up later. But it seems fine like that for now.
So one concern I had, I did drop this in that issue, is if I'm kind of wary of singling out people who are no longer members. We haven't crossed this bridge yet, but I imagine most of the time it's going to be people just simply got busy. But if we kind of single out that they're no longer a member, that could raise questions of, oh, why aren't they a member anymore? Did they do something? Did they get kicked out? I'm worried it might have a singling out effect.
That's a really good point. I think just having one list of people who are currently or have been at a time members on the history doc is fine. I don't think we need to split them up.
Okay. And it is still possible to figure out who is no longer a member from this, but it takes a little work. So I think
the difference is that we don't take action on the removal of a member if there's one list.
Right.
If there's two lists, then there is like an actual commit that occurs, and there's notifications that get sent out when somebody becomes a past member.
Oh, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that. Oh, there still will be on the README. I don't think there's a way around that.
That's true.
But this is definitely one of those like balancing acts. We can't do both perfectly, so we have to like compromise. Yeah. Okay.
Are we settled then? We'll just change the title in the README to current members, and we'll just update the list in the title on the list in the history document to say current and past members.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I'll submit a PR with that, and we can bike shed a little more over the terms there. I think, but this sounds like a good approach. Any other thoughts or comments before we move on to the next one? All right, so the next one, this one is definitely a much bigger one. This is an action item assigned to Scott, which is create a page for community members to join Slack. Scott, you've already done some awesome work on this, so I'm really excited to see where this is going. Has anyone else had a chance to kind of take a look at some of this work? Scott, do you want to kind of lead us through kind of some of the work you've done, some of the rationale behind some of the design decisions, things like that?
Sure. So the goal is to have public joining of our Slack team, because Slack does not enable that unless you do it by domain for email addresses, which we obviously can't control. So we're using an undocumented Slack API to invite members. Slack acknowledges that people use this, and they make no promises about it. They won't intentionally break it, but it's undocumented because they have not decided if the API is the way that they want it to be. So for now, it does work. Other people are using this as well. And the pull request has the bare minimum implementation right now for you come to the site, you click a button, it will use OAuth to connect to GitHub. It will then pull your email address from GitHub, send an invitation through Slack to that email address, and then you just follow the link that you get in the email and you join the team. So that would give you access to all of our public channels. So I have not looked at, I believe we have the channels already set properly for moderation so that only the ones that should be public are public.
Yeah, we have some private channels here and some public ones.
Yeah, so that system works. There's no design work or anything. It's like literally one sentence of plain text on a page. So I can work on that. There's a little bit more implementation to do around like detecting. We have rules like the GitHub account has to exist for 30 days in order for it to send you an invitation, so that way people can't just create throwaway GitHub accounts in order to troll us. And so like I'll need to put up some wording saying, if your account's under 30 days, please contact us, and give them like an email link so that they can send us a note saying that they want to join, and then we can go manually approve them. Presumably trolls would not be going through that form. And I think that's about all it does right now. It's a pretty simple app.
And it's also worth noting that we are intentionally linking this to GitHub Authorization so that we can kind of link people who are applying to, in addition to having that time length, it's also we just have a link back. So if we ever do have to take any sort of moderation action, this enables us to also take moderation action on the GitHub repos. This is the same way that the IRC moderation policy works, I believe, except this is a little more formal. Does anyone have any thoughts on this process? Any concerns, aspects we haven't addressed?
It all sounds good to me. As long as we have language that indicates if you have a problem or it doesn't work for you for some reason that you have a way to get us, which it sounds like we will, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about just dropping in the inclusivity@iojs.org email, say, email us for, if you want to request an exception or run into any problems.
Yeah, I mean, they could also open an issue on the repo, right? Because the code's going to be living there.
Oh, actually, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that. I mean, the whole idea with this part of the Slack is that this is effectively public anyways. So I don't know, are there concerns with, because I mean, that is a public request instead of a private request now?
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily make people post their requests in GitHub if they don't want to, but we have an email address, like as a backup if people for some reason can't do that.
Yeah, like it absolutely can be like a choice whether you want to make it public or private.
Yeah, so there was this discussion of, whether or not the information is public. As far as I know, you can't hide your email address in Slack.
Oh, okay.
So once you decide to join the Slack team, you're publicly giving your email address to everybody else in that team.
That's good to know.
Maybe we should add a disclaimer about that on the sign up page. Yeah, some people may not be comfortable, or they may want to be aware of it so they can use an alternate anonymous email address or something.
Right.
Or to change it to that once they sign into Slack, that is.
A quick question about the Slack as we're potentially adding a bunch more people that aren't members. Who actually has admin privileges on the Slack for the purpose of moderation and stuff like that if we need it?
Every working group member.
Okay, cool. So all of us do. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the current structure right now, and some of this is just artifacts of history, is Jonah is the primary owner, then Ashley and myself are also owners, and then every other member is an admin. And then, of course, everyone else who's not a member will be just a regular user.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and I really do want us to try and use public channels as much as possible. That is a big part of Node.js, and I think ultimately for good reason is transparency is really important. So we wanted to try and be as transparent as possible in this, but with the acknowledgement that some things obviously can't be. Any other thoughts or comments on that before we move on to the next section? And of course, also, I assume this goes without saying. Maybe we need to explicitly mention it, but the code of conduct, that's on GitHub also applies to Slack, and including, which includes giving us the ability to moderate if need be. Let's see. So that's all of our working group operations section. So now we're moving on to open pull request. We have one. This is that invite tool. We have a new repo now called the Inclusivity Slack Inviter, so this is a basically purely code repository. Okay, one thought, I'm kind of making this up as I go. I'm just kind of looking at stuff. So we have this pull request open, which is for this implementation. It looks like it's pretty much all just Node code on the back end. So this is, if you want to take a look, just give some feedback. If there's anything you see that maybe some wording needs to be changed in the UI, some things that could be more robust in the back end, whatever. I'm also pretty okay with just simply getting this out there, getting it up and running. We can always improve it later. Scott, is there anything you wanted to add on the PR specifically about this? Is there anything that you want us to look for?
No, everything that I wanted attention on, I left a comment specifically about, and I think you responded to everything already.
All right, I'll go through it again and make sure. A few other thoughts. So this could be an action item for someone. Is I'm looking at this. We should fill out the README a little more. Probably link back to the inclusivity channel. Maybe mention things like codes of conduct. This is under purview of the inclusivity working group, or something like that. You can take them on, but we could also give that to someone else, since I know this has already been a pretty big chunk of work.
Yeah. My goal with this PR was just like get a review of the general system, like make sure that this was the approach we wanted. And I was just going to wait a few days. So far, nobody else has commented on it. So then I'll go and like actually flesh it out, make the pages have more than just one sentence on them, put some actual design in there, like add the email links like I was talking about and stuff like that. So I just wanted to make sure that I was going down the right path before I, implemented the entire thing. But it is functional. Like we could push this live today and it would work. It just isn't the prettiest thing.
So my kind of initial reaction is maybe we could get just a couple of the things we talked about here, like just the little disclaimer about like emails being visible in place, and then I think we should start looking into getting this live as soon as possible. Everyone will start getting people in. What does everyone else think? Okay, looks like.
I don't know how we manage deployments. Like, are we responsible for our own deployments, or is there some other team that manages infrastructure?
Rich, by chance, do you happen to know? I'm actually not really certain.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm under the impression that we're kind of autonomous in that regard. So, we do what we want.
Okay, so we're autonomous, but we do have access to the servers and stuff like that?
I'm not sure what servers you're referring to.
Well, I assume Node Foundation has ownership of several servers, probably through some service provider.
Yeah, it's not like Node Foundation has a Heroku account and we can spin up a server whenever we want. Like that's my understanding is that the Node Foundation servers are all donated in kind by various service providers for specific purposes. A lot of them are for the build and CI infrastructure. We have the website that's donated, but someone might have to ask Michael or Jeremiah or something, but I don't believe we have here's an account where we just spin up backend type bots and servers that we need. So I guess maybe that's an action item somebody should find out.
Yeah, we should look into that.
All right, I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we don't have access to resources, we can always spin up just like a free Heroku instance or something. I don't anticipate this will get hardly any traffic.
No, and it does almost no work at all.
All right, so let's see, going back to our meeting notes. So that's actually everything on the agenda. Now we want to look at deliverables for the next 2 weeks before we have our next meeting.
Well, I can certainly finish up the Slack inviter.
All right, I think that sounds great. Yeah, let's definitely do that. I think that's really important to kind of getting a lot of our next steps implemented. I have that one deliverable from the beginning. Is there anything else that we want to focus on?
Wasn't one thing that came up like recently also this IRC policy? Wasn't that suggested to be done in this working group?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes, that is definitely something we should take on. There was an issue filed in the node moderation repo. So I can drop this in Slack later, but this is not a public repo for those who are watching. But yeah, so I think there's kind of a moderation policy around IRC right now, but it needs a lot of work. I believe Emily Rose, Nexi, has been involved or had some ideas around that. I should follow up with Emily on that. But it's definitely been suggested that we should take on crafting that policy. And I get the impression that, well, there's probably a reason that this is coming up now, so there might be some amount of pressure to get this done sooner rather than later. Is this something any of you want to take on? We can also talk in Slack to find someone else to take that on, maybe.
I think Jeremiah already. Oh,
Yeah, I think Jeremiah already asked to take it on from you, Brian.
Okay, great. I haven't checked my notifications in a little while.
Yeah, what I was going to suggest was that maybe Brian take on the task of following up with Jeremiah and Emily to just figure out, you know, how do we push that one over the finish line in the next 2 weeks. But,
okay, that sounds great. I'll take that on. Yeah.
All right. And Jonah, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
no.
All right. Anything else anyone wants to bring up? And of course, I should always mention, this isn't like formal sprint planning or anything like that. We can take on whatever work we feel like, and we can always push things, of course.
I'm going to also add another one for you, Brian, to schedule the next meeting, unless there's someone else who should do that. And actually, maybe we should talk about that, because I don't know if that burns you out or not to have to schedule the meeting every 2 weeks.
I'm fine doing it. One of my biggest problems, I just kind of forget sometimes. So like some of our gaps usually come because of that. But now I can do that.
I can take up the task of reminding Brian then.
I like that idea. I did have a thought earlier this morning. I'm curious to see what everyone thinks, kind of along these lines. Is what do you think about sending out a calendar invite to all the members to help remind about meetings? Would that be helpful?
I believe that if you set up the Google Hangout early enough, it sends out a Google Calendar reminder if you add people's actual Google, names to, when you have the option to invite and you invite the public, and then you can add other names. It will actually send them a Google Calendar thing, and I think that's the thing that Jeremiah at least is always asking for. I don't know if that would help anyone else.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I will do that. Yeah, that's thank you. That's a great point. All right. Any other last business? All right. Well, I'm gonna call this meeting adjourned. Thanks everyone for joining in.
Bye.
All right. Bye.